Imagine you're an IELTS speaking test. Examiner: tell me about your hometown. You: it's a small place, it has mountains, people are friendly. Band 5.5. Now, rewind. You:
My hometown, which is between two snowy mountains, is a place where it's friendly people even wave at strangers.
Band 7.5. One grammar trick, two band jump. Alright, let's talk about a grammar hidden in plain sight. You hear it every day.
Movies that make you cry. My neighbor, who's a doctor, works night shifts.
Relative clauses. They're the secret upgrade that makes your speaking sound natural and your writing sound polished, especially in IELTS. Examiners notice this stuff. And trust me, they love it when you nail the difference between defining and non-defining. Relative clauses are the Swiss Army knife of English. They describe, they connect, they impress.
In IELTS speaking, longer answers. In IELTS writing, zero repetition. The two flavors of relative clauses, now with extra crispy details.
First, what exactly is a relative clause? Think of relative clauses as mini sentences that hang on to a noun to tell us more about it.
They're dependent clauses, a mini sentence that can't stand alone and start with a relative pronoun. Who for people, which for things, animals, or ideas, that for people or thing, but only in defining clauses, where for places, when for times, whose for possession.
Imagine you have a plain sentence.
People live in cities.
Now, let's add a relative pronoun.
People who live in cities. And sprinkle some additional information. Tend to walk more.
The clause who live in cities is a relative clause. It hugs the noun people like a name tag, telling us which people we mean. And just like that, your boring sentence puts on a suit, adjusts its tie, and walks straight into IELTS Band 8.
More examples. Jobs that require creativity are growing fast. That require creativity describes jobs. My phone, which I dropped yesterday, has a cracked screen. Which I dropped yesterday adds extra info about my phone.
Simple? Yes. Powerful? Massively.
Types. Defining versus non-defining. Type 1. Defining relative clauses.
Defining relative clauses zero in on a particular person or thing. Without them, the sentence loses key info. The info you cannot skip. They use which, who, or that. When do we use it?
When the listener doesn't know which person or thing you mean. So the clause is necessary to identify it. Real-world and IELTS examples. Candidates who manage their time well usually finish the IELTS writing test calmly. Not all candidates, just the organized ones. The university that offers free language support helped me improve fast. Maybe there are 10 universities, but only one has this program.
Notice there are no commas here. This info is needed. No skipping allowed.
So, for defining, no commas, that is often allowed and common in speaking, cannot be removed without breaking the meaning. The which one test.
Ask yourself, if I delete this clause, is it still clear who or what I'm talking about?
Sometimes a sentence feels unfinished. Not wrong, just confusing. I read a book. Okay, but which book? Your listener is left guessing. That's where relative clauses come in. They help you identify exactly what you mean. I read a book that changed my life. Now the listener knows which book you're talking about. This kind of information is necessary. Without it, the meaning is unclear. That's why we often use that or which. No commas. But look at this. I read The Alchemist. Crystal clear, no confusion. So, if you add extra info, I read The Alchemist, which changed my life, that part is just a bonus detail. Fun, interesting, but not required to understand the sentence.
The sentence already knows who's who. This, the second type.
Type 2. Non-defining relative clauses. Nice to know, but not needed.
Non-defining relative clauses add cool extra notes, like a side story. You can skip them and the main sentence still works. They need commas and use who or which, not that.
Examples. Mr. Brown, who teaches IELTS, gave us a great tip. The clause who teaches IELTS adds extra info about Mr. Brown, but we already know which Mr. Brown, the one who teaches IELTS. It's a non-defining clause. Tokyo, which is one of the biggest cities, never sleeps. Which is one of the biggest cities isn't needed to identify Tokyo. There's only one. It's a bonus detail. Another non-defining clause.
Try saying them without the clauses. The sentence still makes perfect sense. When do we use it? When the noun is already specific. Everyone knows who or what you mean. So the clause is just extra color.
So, non-defining clauses always use commas. They don't use that. Rare exceptions exist in journalism. You can delete the clause. The sentence still works. Commas, respect.
Think of commas as pausing to say, hey, fun fact.
My cousin lives in Canada. Basic. My cousin who just got married lives in Canada. Now it's personal, warm, and fluent.
In IELTS speaking, this makes your stories shine. I'd like to talk about my grandfather, who taught me how to play guitar.
The top 3 mistakes even advanced learners make. Mistake 1. Missing commas in non-defining clauses. This mistake changes the meaning, not just the grammar. My sister who lives in Sydney is a nurse. This sentence is defining.
How do we know? Because there are no commas. It means the info is important.
It suggests you have more than one sister, and you're explaining which sister you mean. The one in Sydney. No commas, the information's essential. My sister who lives in Sydney is a nurse. This is non-defining. The commas show that who lives in Sydney is extra information, not needed to identify her. You're talking about one sister, and Sydney is just a bonus detail.
You have one sister, and she just happens to live in Sydney.
Mistake 2. Using that in non-defining clauses. Shakespeare that wrote Hamlet was brilliant. Big no. This is considered incorrect in standard English. Shakespeare who wrote Hamlet was brilliant. Mistake 3. Forgetting whose for possession. The student, his essay was perfect. Of course not. The student whose essay was perfect got a band 9. IELTS Power Zone, where relative clauses win points. Writing task 2.
Use non-defining relative clauses to sound academic.
Electric cars, which produce zero tailpipe emissions, are key to reducing urban pollution.
Use defining relative clauses to add precision.
Governments should support companies that invest in green technology. Quick self-check. Do this now.
Look at these sentences. Defining or non-defining.
That restaurant that serves vegan sushi is new. Defining. That serves vegan sushi identifies which restaurant. My phone, which I bought last week, already has a scratch. Non-defining. Extra info about my phone. Mount Everest, which is 8,848 meters tall, is in Nepal. Non-defining. Extra fact about Mount Everest, already specific. Professors who give clear feedback help students improve. Defining. Specifies which professors.
Alright, class, that's a wrap. You've just leveled up your sentence game with relative clauses. They stick ideas together so your English flows like your favorite playlist. Now you can say things like, the pizza that disappeared was mine, or she's the one who knows all the answers. Keep it simple, keep it smooth. Class dismissed.